So, we've just had a poo shoe session. It's the first time you've experienced it.
Yes.
How did you find it?
So different from what I expected. It stimulated a lot of discussion, and people moved out of their normal attitudes, and I felt that people were opening up themselves to a fuller, wider discussion than the simple points that were being put on the table.
That's interesting. So how do you think that happened? Or
it happened actually, I think, because it was a group of people who were all, the National Health Service and the way it runs is a concern to a lot of people. And everybody sitting at the table had their views of the National Health Service. They knew a reasonable amount about it. So a discussion based on different aspects of the service, the confidentiality, transparency, organisation, bureaucracy, the relative balance between patient and consultant. They were all things that people knew about and could open their hearts to and just discuss them openly. And the discussion just flew along, just took off.
Because it was a really noisy environment in there, because it was the open
Oh
day.
yes, it was noisy, but that didn't seem to interfere. The people who were in the discussion became very intent upon what each of us was saying, and you didn't want to miss a word of what somebody else said.
No, I noticed all the chairs were taken and there was nowhere anybody else was coming in.
We had people standing around almost waiting to take the place of somebody.
We weren't going to give them up.
I know it's meant to be a taster, but it became an absolute discussion group, a focus group on the National Health Service, which I thought was fantastic.
So, what did you think of Anna doing the graphic recording with her art, capturing the conversations?
I thought it was very good, but as it were, it wasn't the part that I was involved in.
No.
She was taking it away and making a presentation of it, and I'm sure that's great. And I'd like to see how she presented the way the discussion went. But at the time, I think we were all so busy trying to get our points of view across, trying to understand other people's attitudes, and trying to get our heads around really serious, almost philosophical questions of how do you deal with a bureaucratic attitude, how do you deal with confidentiality, how do you deal with all those things. And we all deal with it in the wider world, and trying to apply it to a particular situation was very stimulating.
Was there any particular, I don't know if you can recall any particular discussion that kind of struck a chord with you, or that you've got a really strong view about?
I think the discussion on confidentiality got to me more than the others. But that's because it's a very difficult area. How much do you tell people? What do you tell people? How do you tell it to them? You know, it's the confidentiality area. You've got a huge organisation. It runs like a train, you know, and people worry about whether their information is being misused or whether they talk about me when I'm out of the room, that sort of thing. And so that interested me greatly. And the way people discussed how to deal with it. People came up with ideas that I hadn't even, that were completely new to me, as to A, what the problems were, and B, how you could deal with them. It was...
So in that short session there was some real ideas
coming
out.
But it was a case of exposing the problems and then people coming up with creative ways to deal with them. And because of the way you organise the situation, you don't have to defend a point of view. You're contributing and you don't have to defend your point of view at all. And that does encourage, I thought it encouraged really genuine communication.
That's interesting. It doesn't blame anybody.
No blame, no blame, no need to defend yourself, no need to put yourself in a position. You could just react to what people were saying, you could say what you thought, and you, as it were, you put it on the table and other people ran with it and you ran with other people's ideas. I thought it was very, very positive and seriously I found it stimulating. It got my brain working quite hard.
And you're keen to work with the hospital now if you can find appropriate ways
if there is a good way, yes.
I mean, she's fantastic.
Yes.
The hospital needs people, you know, real people of all ages and all backgrounds.
Yes. But I didn't come here to offer my services. I only came here to look around, you know.
Yeah.
And but it was so easy. Once you get into the game, it's difficult to push a chair away and walk away. You
So it
get
wasn't
so
just the
involved.
cake.
Didn't have time for the cake. Didn't have time
Oh, you
for the
get
cake.
that for
And I thought if I was eating, I couldn't speak, and I needed to make my points.
How about you, Yvonne?
Oh, I'm very much like Maurice, my father here. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I know about your work. I've read about your work. I know you. We've met before, and I know you from Twitter. But I've never actually played the game.
Right.
And what I really liked was the fact that, as you both just said, it was no blame, but there was no confrontation either. And often in a meeting where people are trying to problem solve, what happens is that people promote their idea so that it doesn't become, let's find the best idea. Egos sometimes get in the way so that everybody wants their idea to be the winner, and it's almost competitive. Whereas this way that you've got everybody talking very democratically, very openly, I felt very much that we were a team. We were pooling ideas. We were all sharing thoughts, and somebody said something, then somebody else would add to it and add to it and add to it, and you could almost see the sort of verbal Lego bricks being built layer on layer. And then there were a couple of sort of light bulb moments as well, where you just sort of went completely down a different avenue and came up with complete ideas for total reorganisation and things. So I don't know how well they're going to go down. But no, it was. But the other thing is, it was fun, and it was also very inclusive. Neither my father nor I work at Kingston Hospital, and it was a good mix of people, of staff, and staff of very different levels. We had, I think we had a director, and was it the chief exec? Or?
I'm not quite sure who was on your
but we also had.
I know you had a volunteer.
We had a volunteer, and we had patients, and
you had a semi-retired social worker.
Yes. And the thing was, it was a great leveller. Everybody's views were valid, and everybody listened to each other. Often, when you're in a sort of much more formal type of meeting, everybody defers to the person who has the swankiest job title. And they don't always...
Or the longest job title with a few brackets.
Yes, and those people can't... It's too much pressure for us all to expect them to come up with all the ideas, but they actually learn a lot by talking to the little people like me as well. So
that was wonderful, everything you said apart from that last bit.
Well, I was here as a role as a sort of patient come carer, so in the great hospital hierarchy.
No, that's gone.
Okay.
But apart from that,
everybody took possession of what was on the table. There was no, this is my bit, that's your bit, and I'm defending that, or I don't like this piece of yours. Everybody was in possession of what came out of that discussion. And I think that's a great way. And it's the game that stimulated that. It's this idea that we're really playing a game,
So we have brand new material today, so you're the first people to have tried that, particularly it's around admin and processes, but we've done things obviously around maternity or around dementia care. So you've always got bespoke material, and this is what Kingston Hospital have developed.
The work you must have put into it must be phenomenal.
The other thing is,
it keeps me busy.
I picked up, when the first card got picked up, it was about filing, and I was thinking, oh dear, that's boring.
I thought I'd be out of here in 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes, that's not going to, but filing could spark such interesting conversation.
It became how do you handle information and types of information. We got into almost philosophical discussions of what is information, who's entitled to it, how do you handle it, all of those points that you never really think about. You're too busy to think about those things.
Did you have the consultant on his knees sorting the files out?
Yes.
That was my role. I thought
But it was also helped greatly because I think we had a superb facilitator in Dorothy.
Yes.
And there was tremendous respect around the table. I didn't know anybody when I sat down, and yet there was a real feeling that everybody was an equal contributor and everybody was valued. There was no pulling rank or putting people down. It was how meetings should work, and that was quite lovely. Thank you.
Do you know what you do if someone does dominate?
No?
You throw the dice.
Yes,
Right.
No, it's a great kind of, the group will go with that. Seriously, the group will
It was
think.
odd. In this discussion, there were what? 8? I don't know, around about 8 people. Nobody wanted to dominate. They wanted to contribute.
That's good.
Nobody
really good.
wanted to run it, and the discussion was quite active because people weren't defending, they weren't trying to push their own ideas. It was as if you were reacting to what other people said. You put your idea on the table and the group decided if it was worth pursuing it or whether we should move on in some other way. It was a very democratic way to handle a discussion. Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for our little chat. And enjoy the rest of the episode. Thank you, Florence, for coming with us.